Thank you so much for joining us.
It's great to be with you.
We know that every day is a busy day for you.
That's true.
You've just come back from Central Asia. This was your first time, right?
It was, yes, and it was really an honor to be there. Actually, when I moved to Washington about 14 years ago, one of the first embassies I was ever invited to was the embassy from Uzbekistan. And I went to a dinner there, and I think maybe that helped me fall in love with foreign policy.
How much did you know about the region as you started this job,
Well,
let's
I
just say?
have the privilege of being able to cover the entire world with Secretary Pompeo, so it's been one of the most fascinating intellectual challenges for me. And of course, Central Asia is so important to this administration. It's the reason that we unveiled this new Central Asia strategy and have the meeting of the C5+1, because we believe it's important to bolster these countries, to help them with their independence, with their territorial integrity, and of course with their relationship with the United States. So Secretary Pompeo always says that it's important to show up, and that's why he went there, to show up, to build the relationships, to build on what is already a great relationship.
And the last time U.S. Secretary of State was in the region was 5 years ago in 2015. So it was a huge excitement in the region to have Secretary Pompeo and of course you and Assistant Secretary Alice Wells. But you just said show up. What does this mean? Because there is a feeling, very heavily felt feeling in the region that they come, they visit us, we're exotic enough, we're interesting enough, they eat our, they enjoy our cuisine, they enjoy our ethnic outfits and other things, they remember our historic places, maybe buy a couple of rugs, and that's it, nothing else happens. Basically, they criticize major governments for coming, checking on the region, and not necessarily following up.
So we had a couple of reasons for going there. One, of course, is we were very encouraged by the president's reform agenda. He has sought out ways in which to make Uzbekistan an even better place for American businesses to live, to work, to do business. He obviously has been working on things like religious freedom, which is incredibly important to Secretary Pompeo. We had a religious freedom event there. And so we think in these meetings with our counterparts, we were able to discuss more ways in which that Uzbekistan can continue the president's reform agenda. We were able to talk about more American investment and what needs to happen there. Of course, one of the crucial things about Uzbekistan is the close counterterrorism relationship that the United States has with Uzbekistan, and that sometimes gets lost in the headlines. A lot of the American media can focus on Afghanistan, our involvement there, but it's because of partners like Uzbekistan that we are able to have an American presence in Central and South Asia. And as we move forward to hopefully finding a peaceful resolution in Afghanistan, it's going to be more important now than ever for countries like Uzbekistan and Kazakhstan and the other members of the C5 to really bring Afghanistan into the culture and the tradition of Central Asia.
What were the messages from the leaders of Kazakhstan and Uzbekistan that you felt like we have to absolutely discuss this in Washington? This is something that we had never heard before. This is a major concern or issue for us.
So I always want to be careful about characterizing the private conversations that the Secretary has with his counterparts. But I'd say that the Secretary has really asked Alice Wells, our Assistant Secretary for South Central Asia, to focus on this new Central Asia strategy. We think it's important for a number of reasons. Number one, the counterterrorism reasons that I just talked about. Number two, it's incredibly important in our mind for these countries in Central Asia to know that they have a friend and ally and partner in the United States, and that friendship is important as we see Russia and China and other geopolitical competitors having influence in Central Asia. It's important for us, for Central Asia, to know that the things that America stands for are the things that we think the people of Uzbekistan and Central Asia care about. We care about religious tolerance and freedom. We care about good business practices. We care about transparency and accountability. And we believe something that's really a pillar of the Trump administration is sovereignty, is national identity and national sovereignty. And that's why we were there to help those countries. The one thing I think that I forgot that I would also add that was discussed was energy needs. That was actually a theme throughout our trip when we were also in Ukraine and in Belarus. And the robust, America is a huge energy supplier around the world now. And we have certainly offered our assistance on the energy front as well.
In Uzbekistan?
Throughout Central Asia, yeah, that was a theme of our trip.
So some of the things that you've just mentioned, we have heard this before from the previous administrations, from the previous members of the State Department. What if Central Asians say, you know, this is an election year in the United States. You know, we don't know if Secretary Pompeo will be here within a few months or not. Like, why is the Trump administration changing or updating the policy, the strategy for Central Asia, and why should we take all of this seriously?
Well, we are a thriving democracy in the United States, so you never know when any of us are going to be here. We have elections every 2 years, every 4 years. People change. But what's important, and I think this goes across party lines here in the United States, is our support for the people of Central Asia and our belief, and again, I believe this goes across party lines, our belief that these countries deserve the right to be sovereign, to be independent, to be able to make the decisions that are best for their country. We also, listen, since the last time Secretary of State was in Uzbekistan, that was 5 years ago, as you said, and we've seen a lot change in the Communist Party in China in the past 5 years. Xi Jinping has accelerated the Belt and Road Initiative. He's accelerated putting Muslims and Kazakh and other ethnic minorities in camps in China. He's accelerated the way in which the Chinese Communist Party is trying to expand their influence throughout Central Asia. So that's different than 5 years ago, and that's why we're showing up, because we believe that American values, American integrity, American standards and practice are best suited for the people of Central Asia, despite the free and cheap money that the Chinese Communist Party likes to offer.
Both in Kazakhstan and Uzbekistan, we heard a lot of people saying to Secretary Pompeo and his delegation, you included, we want President Trump to visit. We want American president to come to the region. No U.S. president ever visited the region. What would you say to them?
I will be happy to mention that to Secretary Pompeo and to President Trump when I see him next. He'll probably be traveling around the United States quite a bit because, as you noted, it is an election year, and he does have, I think, a few foreign trips coming up, but I'll be happy to relay the message. It would certainly be an honor for the people of Uzbekistan to continue to welcome this administration into your country.
As soon as you got to Tashkent, the first people you met were the religious leaders. How did you make that decision? Why them? Not the press, not the members of the civil society, not your regular human rights activists, but the members of the religious circle.
That's interesting that you noticed that, and that was purposeful. I'm glad you brought that up. We have had 2 religious freedom ministerials here at the State Department. And listen, when you're Secretary of State, you know that you have a limited time to make a difference, and so you have to choose issues that are important to you. For Secretary Pompeo, pursuing and advocating for religious freedom around the world is something that he wants to be known for. It's a hallmark of what he's doing here at the State Department, and it's especially important to have those meetings with the religious leaders to continue to promote inclusion and tolerance of other religions, and to say to the whole world that America will not stand for Muslims and other ethnic minorities being persecuted and forced into camps in China. We'll never stand for that.
Thank you. Well, we hope to talk to Secretary Pompeo too at some point.
I will let him know. I'm sure he'll be happy to.
Yes,
Great.
And discuss Central Asia with him. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.